Hey everyone. Alright, this video is going to be over percent problems. Your objective, I will solve percent problems by calculating a percent, part, or whole. So let's review. A percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100. So it is an amount out of 100. Now, in class today, we talked about estimating the answers to these problems. And now we're actually going to go through and solve them, and we're going to use a proportion. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the part and put it over the whole, and we're going to set that equal to the percent over 100. Keep in mind, in these very simple statements, when you see is, that number represents the part. When you see of, that number represents the whole. So here are the steps. We want to identify the type of numbers, so we want to identify the part, the whole, and the percent. And remember, one of these will be missing. We're still going to estimate our answer, just like we did in class today. We're going to fill in the proportion and solve. And of course, we want to check and make sure that our answer is reasonable based on what we estimated. All right, example 1. What percent of 15 is 2? So let's identify what we have. I see of 15, so there's the whole, and then is 2, so 2 is the part. Now obviously the percent is missing. There is no number here that has the percent symbol next to it, so we're trying to find a percent. So the whole is 15, so that means that 100% is 15. So this entire diagram is worth 15. Now the part that we're looking at is 2. So if this is 15, I'm going to put a mark maybe about right here and say that that's worth 2. Now compared to 100%, we know 50% would be about right there. So we know that our percentage is going to be quite a bit less than 50%. It's going to be higher than 0, but it's going to be less than 50. So we're looking for a smaller percentage here. So now I'm going to set up the proportion. So the part, 2, over the whole, 15. Now we're missing this percent, so I'm going to put an X there to represent it. And we put that over 100. And now we're just going to cross multiply, just like we've been doing. 15 times X is 15X. And 2 times 100 is 200. And I want to isolate the variable. The inverse of multiplying by 15 is to divide by 15. And I'm going to come over here and work that out. Remember, top dog goes in the house. Okay. 15 can go into 2 0 times, and it can go into 20 once. We get 5 left over. 15 can go into 50 3 times, which is 45. Okay, so obviously this is going to repeat. Now, when we add a decimal and annex a 0, 15 is going into 50 again. We know it's just going to be 13.3 repeating. So what I'm going to do is just round it to the 10th place, and that would be 13.3. Now remember, this is a percent. Our question asked for a percent. So this would be approximately 13.3%. And yes, it is okay if there is a decimal inside of the percent. This is still a percent. Draw an arrow to that. Okay, now based on our estimation, we know that that percentage had to be less than 50, and we knew it was going to be closer to 0. And 13.3%, definitely less than 50, and that is closer to 0. So we know that our answer is reasonable. All right, example 2. 90% of 64 is what? So obviously we have a percent. Then we see of 64. Remember, of is the whole. So we are missing the part. So now let's look at the diagram and let's make our estimation. If 64 is the whole thing, then that means that 100% is really just 64. So the whole thing is 64. Then we've got 90%. I know 50% is going to be about right here. 90%, I'm going to label that pretty close to 100. So we are trying to find 90% of 64. So I know that the whole thing is worth 64, so I know that whatever number this is, it's going to be pretty close to 64. So that's what I'm looking for in my final answer. Now I'm going to set up the proportion. We don't have a part, so I put x in its place. The whole is 64. And then I put the percent, which is 90, over 100. And now I'm going to cross multiply. X times 100, that's just 100x. And I want you to go ahead and pause and work out 64 times 90, and I am going to do the same thing. Alright, so when I multiplied that out, I got 5,760. But we are not done. We still need to isolate the variable. I'm going to divide by 100 on each side. 5,760 divided by 100. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys work that out. So pause and work that. Okay, and once you are done, you should get 57.6. So let's check the reasonableness of our answer. Okay, the whole entire thing is worth 64, and we know that whatever value 90% is worth, it's got to be pretty close to 64. We got 57.6. Yes, that is pretty close to 64, so that is a reasonable answer. All right, example 3, 9 is 25% of what number? We see 9 is, okay, and it's okay that the is came after. I know it didn't look like that in examples 1 and 2. But 9 is still going to be the part. Obviously 25% is the percent. So we are missing the whole. So we don't know what 100% is. We're not sure what that represents right now. So I'm going to take this percent, 25%. I know 50% would be here. 25% is going to be halfway between 0 and 50. And then 9 is 25%. 9 is that part. So this is worth 9. Now, based on what we did in class today, we said, okay, well, if this is worth 9, so is this. The next 25% is worth 9. So we basically have 4 9s. But let's go ahead and set up a proportion and work it out and make sure that our answer matches what we have estimated on the diagram. So we're going to put the part over the whole, which is missing, and that is going to equal 25% over 100. I'm going to cross multiply. 25x equals 900. And then I am going to isolate that variable and see what x equals. And I'm going to go ahead and put top dog in the house and divide. All right, 25 can go into 90 3 times. That is 75 with 15 left over. And then 25 goes into 150 6 times. So x would equal 36. And yes, that is what we already estimated based on our diagram. All right, now it's time for you to try. I want you to find what is 59% of 14. Don't forget to identify your part, whole, and percent. Figure out which one of those is missing. Make sure you estimate your answer, then set up your proportion and solve. All right, make sure you've got everything recorded, and I will see you next class day.